What's on, mini fans? We are back with video 3 in this little industrial complex series, and this time I am tackling the painting, which was tough, but we'll get into that in a bit. If you like anything in the video, feel free to hit that like button, ring that notification bell, and subscribe if you want to stay up to date with my content. Also, any feedback is much appreciated, so feel free to leave a comment. And then down below in the description box I have some affiliate links. So I have a couple of hobby stores, one for EU, it's UK based but it does do all of EU, and then one US, and then I also have some Amazon affiliate links for my most used items. I also have a Patreon where I host all the templates I use in any of my videos. And of course, feel free to subscribe to my Patreon if you want to support me further. Anyway, enough of this, let's get on to crafting. Before I start painting, what I've done is do a solution of Mod Podge, water, and a bit of paint, and just cover the entire thing to seal it. This was tough. It took ages, but watered down, it wasn't too bad. And then, thankfully, I do have an airbrush. I mean, could have used Rattle Can, but painting the primer? No way. So I just prime it black with the airbrush, and then base coat with burnt umber. This did take a while, but again, the airbrush was an absolute lifesaver. And you'll notice the LED controller I have put in a little sealy bag so I don't cover it in paint. And then we're on to the silver. So I'm using a dark-ish silver. I actually just darkened down my silver paint. I put in a bit of black. And then I dry brush the entire thing with a big makeup brush. This again took a while, but it's already looking pretty cool, honestly. It's bringing out all those details, looking nice. Going into this, I had a rough idea of how I wanted to paint it. So I wanted some blues, some reds, some greens, and then of course hazard stripes. At this point, at the beginning, I decided, you know what would look really cool is to have hazard stripes in each of those archways. But of course, there's no way to do that now, at least painting onto the model itself. So I decided I've got some casts of those the arches already, so why not just trace that out onto card on one side and then turn that card over, and this is exactly what I do. So I prime it, I actually Mod Podge it first, prime black, and then whack down my masking tape, go over it again with the black paint. Thanks everyone for that tip. So that seals the masking tape so you don't get any leakage underneath. And then I sponge on flesh tone, and then after that's dried, sponge on yellow, and then I peel that masking tape off, and it's all beautiful. And then I do some weathering now, so I just sponge on some black, just to, make it look a bit knackered. And then after this is done, I flip it over, so I've got the drawn out arches, cut them out, cover them in Mod Podge, and whack them into those arches, and brilliant. Looks perfect. onto proper painting on the piece itself. So I start off doing a darkish red, and I paint the big pipes, at least the sort of inner sections of those, and some other little bits and pieces. I do the fan casing, or the fan cover, and a couple of the little vents, and the big bottle at the back. Onto the top walkway, I do that sort of nice darkish green, and I do it quite scratchy with a brush, so you've got some silver still showing through. And then on those bits I've just painted, the red and the green, I now go back in with a sponge, bit of sponge on a stick, and just do a lighter version of that colour. So a bit of a brighter red, bit of a brighter green. And then just go over the top, especially on the upward sort of facing parts. At this point, I decided I want more hazard stripes. So I did the sort of angled front section of the crane platform, and the very front, or the first centimetre of the green bottom top platform, just where the ladder is. So again, I've masked it off, and it's the same process. You know, paint it black, mask it off, paint black over the top, sponge on flesh, sponge on yellow, then do a bit of weathering. Peel that masking tape off, and yeah, it looks so cool. We're onto the floors now, so I do this to all like undetailed floor sections, so be they up or down, and I just paint these a sort of basic grey. Now, as everyone predicted, this is quite hard to paint, so I wanted to do quite a few of the wall sections a lightish blue. And there's no way I can get a brush in there. I mean, maybe I can use airbrush, but honestly, I'm a beginner with the airbrush, so I don't really trust myself with that. So I decided to go a different route. and I've cut card pieces which fit into all the wall sections that I want a different colour. And then I've Mod Podged those, and then primed them grey. And then on a couple of places I want some stenciled letters and numbers, so in this case C14. So what I've done is choose a nice font, printed it out a couple of times. I did one small, one big, and then on that printed out piece I put some clear tape over the top, and then masking tape to stick to that. So the clear tape is so the masking tape will just peel off, and then I painstakingly cut out those letters. We'll come back to that in a second. So those grey card panels now, we undercoat or base coat a lightish blue. Then with that same blue I do all the smaller pipes, and also the sort of angled panel on like the LED controller thing on the side of the crane platform. Back to those masking tape stencils, I painstakingly peel these off the taped paper, and this was tough honestly, because there's the little joins on the C and the 4. Some of those tore, especially on the smaller ones, so then I had to cut some tiny slithers of masking tape and repair them, but I got them off. And then I stick these into place, so I do one on the upper section of where the LED controller is, and then one on one of the panels, the blue panels we just did. So then after that masking tape's in place, I sponge on white and then peel that masking tape off, and yes, thankfully it's all good. Then I do a little more masking tape, so I do a couple of stripes horizontally across the door, and then on the blue panel where I've just done that stencil I do a couple of white stripes, one either side of the stencil. So again, I just sponge on white and then peel that masking tape off. Apologies, I do block the camera a little bit here, but what I do now is just attach all those blue panels. So I just Mod Podge the back of the panels, whack them into place, and just sort of hold them in place for a while until they've stuck. A few I did go around the edges with super glue as well. Everything's sealed, so the XPS foam won't melt. Now, I did hum and ha about this a little bit. Initially, I figured I was going to cover the entire thing in posters, but I decided, nah, I don't want to go that far. So I figured I'm going to keep it quite minimal and just do 3 signs to go on this. So I've done a fairly tall warning sign, tiny little triangular warning sign, and then a radioactive sign. So I've just printed these out on cardstock and then I cut them out. Time to glue those signs into place. I do the taller warning sign next to the big C14 on the LED controller wall. So I just Mod Podge the back, whack it into place, and then just cover the whole thing in Mod Podge. Then I do the smaller warning sign on the side door, and then the big radioactive sign. This one, I want this one to go on the bottle, so I try and bend it round the bottle a little bit, then Mod Podge it, get it into place, and I actually put some little drops of super glue on the corners just to keep them in place while the Mod Podge seals. I think it'll be fine, but just to make sure they don't move, especially the one on the bottle. Okie dokie, we're on to black wash now. I'd run out of the previous batch of black wash I'd made, so I decided to make some more, but I thought maybe I'd try a slightly different recipe. And I used a load of black paint, water, but then also some airbrush flow improver. And I did still add a bit of dish soap. I don't know if I really need to with the flow improver, but that's what I did, and it seems to work fine. So I just cover the whole thing in this black wash, and then, especially on the coloured sections, I dab some off with a bit of kitchen towel. On to some more weathering. So I've made some new sponges on sticks, and I've cut the sponge at an angle, so I think this will probably help with some of the bits on this, because they're quite hard to reach to. So I start off with black, and I just, dab the sponge into the black paint, dab some of it off on a kitchen towel, and then just go to town, and I do weathering on some of those stenciled letters, and then just pretty much everything else. Then after the black, I do the same with burnt umber, but I also do this in places where I'm gonna do rust. And then on those rusty bits, over the top, I sponge on some orange. And I'm using quite a small sponge on a stick for this one, because I'm quite deliberate this time. Normally I'm a little bit haphazard with this, but I needed to be a bit more deliberate with this, because some of the bits to get to were quite tough. And then the final stage is just doing a little bit more staining. And initially I was using my black wash, but it wasn't showing up quite enough. So I just added some normal paint to it just to make it a bit more solid colour. So I just do some stains in various places, dripping down some of the wall sections on some of the flat surfaces. And then I do the same thing with brown, although I don't film that. But I do that mainly at the bottom of the wall sections. As a final addition, this was my plan all along, I just hadn't shown it until now. I've added onto the back section, of the back sort of wall section of this whole piece, the pipe connectors I did in a previous video. So I've just added some riveted squares of cardstock on each pipe end, and then just glued that onto the back. And that's the whole project complete. Here are some photos of the finished piece. I've whacked the crane from my cargo crane onto the top just to finish it all off. So I've taken a few photos, and I've done some with the LED lights on and the lights dimmed. I am so very pleased with those LED lights. I know there's only two, but it's the first time I've ever used them, and they just add a certain something to the whole thing. Again, the painting of this was a bit of a nightmare, but two lifesavers. First one, airbrush. Second one, my dirty painting technique. But all jokes aside, it was tough, but it was manageable. If I was to do things differently, I would maybe assemble it differently and do it in sections so I could paint at the same time. It was just the wires from the lighting. It was tough to get them into place without gluing all those pipes into place. So yeah, painting was tough. But again, I am so pleased with this project. I hope you all enjoyed it. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers for now.